This is the KRMG Afternoon News with Skylar Cooper.
5:06, it is the KRMG Afternoon News, and I've been looking forward to this for a while. I've been on mornings every couple of weeks or taking a day off here and there, and I don't get my weekly chat with Michael Spurgeon, the city manager in Broken Arrow, but we get to do that today. Hey, Michael.
That's right, Skylar. It's great to hear you, and I look forward to visiting with you about some of the things that you may have on your mind about Broken Arrow.
Absolutely. Well, I want to share some thoughts from our listeners. We've been asking for text messages and open mics, of course, to see what they want to know about what's going on in Broken Arrow. And it just so happens that a question I had planned to ask is also a concern of a listener here. So Justin out in BA texted us, and he said he wants to know when the construction is going to be done in front of the high school. We know school starts tomorrow. And we have heard from the city that there are a number of projects that are going to kind of be going on for a little bit longer. So let's start with that one by the high school.
Oh, absolutely. To answer Justin's question, bottom line is the project overall is going to be completed in the spring of 2024. We've actually have a road that was in some areas 3 lanes, and there were some areas 4 lanes, but we're actually going to be taking that road to a 5-lane, and we've made improvements to the intersection there at County Line Road in Albany, and we're about a month and a half away from completing the intersection improvements. But overall, the project's going to be done in the spring of 2024. Road projects are it's very inconvenient to do a road project anywhere near a school any time of year. We normally try to get them started in the summer, so hopefully we'll be able to complete it sooner. But so we're going to have all the signage, and we just ask the motorists to pay attention to the signs in the construction zones and adhere to the speed limit like they did down in New Orleans Square during this time. And we'll be finished pretty soon. It's going to be a great project.
Are there other schools that are affected by this beyond the high school?
Well, actually, the County Line Road project, which is further south, we're putting in the new bridge over County Line Road between Kenosha and Houston. I mean, that's causing some temporary delays, and obviously we have buses that travel that area. So we've been in communication to them about the need to be mindful when you're driving through that area. So that project is going along very well, and it's going to be completed once again in the spring of 2024. But once again, that's an area that folks are just going to have to be careful now that school's back in session. And the most important thing I can stress right now is just take your time when you're in the construction zones, pay attention to the signs, because there are going to be lane changes as a part of that construction, and we'll get through this together.
I live in Broken Arrow, as I usually disclose and talk about when we do this segment, and I was curious about this too. So I'm interested to see that the City Council tonight plans to talk about the fireworks ordinance. Usually folks have to buy a permit, and there are certain rules. So why is this being brought up at the City Council? I understand maybe there are some people who don't want fireworks set off in the city, and there are other folks who wish that they could do it more freely.
Well, I can tell you, Scarlett, that's a great question. And the bottom line is it's become somewhat of a contentious issue within our community, especially right before and right after the 4th of July. There have citizens that have come forth to the council members expressing concerns about the effects fireworks have on their lives as well as their pets, and they're very concerned about it. And so the council wanted to have a discussion about it, and I can anticipate that they'll probably want to have some type of open forum to allow folks to express their concerns about that. But I can tell you is that, we've been able to shoot fireworks off since a decision that was made back in 2006. There was a proposition, non-binding, that was put before the voters, and it passed by 62%. There were over 22,000 folks that came out to vote on it. So I'm not sure if the council's thinking about the possibility of putting it back out to a non-binding referendum, or actually, they're going to have me work on enforcement, because, my position as city manager is, as long as they're going to be allowed, I'm going to make sure that it's easy to get a permit. And we issued almost 1,300 permits last year. And also, I think we can do a better job of enforcement. I mean, this year we issued approximately 14 citations and a couple of warnings, and we've got on GIS with the mapping system of the police department. But folks need to get a permit if they're going to shoot, and if they don't, there needs to be consequences. And so I think it's going to be a very robust, comprehensive discussion about fireworks, and I'll be able to give you an update next week on what was decided, whether it was continued discussion or council decides that we're just going to leave it the way it is.
All right, we'll follow up on that. And now a couple more questions from texters. It's okay okay if you don't know the answer to this, because it's not really, not necessarily a city-related thing. I don't think. Maybe it is. Texter Mark in Broken Arrow says, what's going on with that weird-looking pole at 71st? Let me translate to Broken Arrow. Kenosha and Aspen. And they sent a picture by the railroad tracks of what looks like a fake tree, but it's a big pole. Do you know anything about that?
So you're talking about, what's the location again?
Aspen, north of Kenosha by the railroad tracks.
Actually, I think it's some type of cell tower, something to do with the cell tower. And I'm probably going to have to check on it, because all I've heard is something to do with it being some type of cell tower.
Yeah, I've seen these in other states. I figured that's what it was too. Another texter here. I'm sorry, I've lost their name, but they were just curious. You may have covered this last week. They may not have heard it, but I know there had been some kind of delay with Reesers, and they were just curious of when construction is going to get going over there on Aspen down by the Creek Turnpike.
Well, speaking of cell phone towers, that was what I talked about last week, was the fact that, there is a cell phone tower that's in the area where the project is at Aspen Ridge, and they're needing to get all the easement signed and the basically the dedication of those easements. And I was told by the developer early this week through our economic development manager that we can expect construction of the Reesers to start sometime around September 18th. That's a date that I was told. I know that Crossland Construction has been awarded a contract for the work. They're ready to get started. And, we've spoken to Jeff Reesers recently, and he's super excited about the project. I mean, we got a lot of other construction going on, a lot of the businesses that are going on up there. There's going to be a few more that are getting their permits through the development department. And so obviously there's nobody wants that Reesers to get started any sooner than I do or the council. But I think we're approximately a month away, and they'll get started, and then it's going to be completed before June 30th of next year.
We're talking with Broken Arrow City Manager Michael Spurgeon. We do this every Tuesday. It's called the BA Breakdown. And I'm going to go a little long here, Michael, because we've hit a nerve. I'm getting a lot of text messages, and so I just figure we'll do rapid fire questions.
Okay.
This one from a listener in BA is talking about New Orleans Square. In fact, I'm just to ask you if you've heard of this from anyone else. They say that there are some spots coming out of parking lots. They give Metro Merchandise as a example, where those new signs about New Orleans Square kind of obscure the view of traffic. Have you heard anyone else ask anything about that?
I've had a couple of people express concerns, and we've actually had them installed, and they're in compliance. And if you're actually exiting the parking lots exactly where you're supposed to, you have plenty of sight distance.